NFL draft recap. Obviously, the headline of the draft, which shouldn't have been with Shador Sanders, was pick round five, pick 144 in the draft. A few quarterbacks were taken before him. Cam Ward, number one. That's the one you can really say that really probably should have been drafted before him, if anyone. Jackson Dart was traded. The Giants had traded back to get into the first round to go get him. Tyler Shuck was drafted in the second round by the Saints, which they needed a quarterback, and I don't think they got the right one. But that's a story for another day. Jalen Milroe was drafted to the Seahawks, and his teammate Dylan Gabriel was taken. Obviously, he's taken in the third round, all taken before Shador Sanders. So we got a graphic of how the actual first round played out. As you see, Travis Hunter was traded up from the Jaguars from 5 to 2, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And then you got Abdul Carter. Those three, well, really those five names weren't, even those six, Ashton Genty, were really just lock-ins, I would say. We're most likely going to get picked up regardless. You could even say top 10, except for number 9 and number 10. But yeah, the top 9 probably were either way going to be in the top 10 at some point. Jalen Walker sliding all the way to the Falcons. That was actually a big shocker to me. I thought that the Dolphins could have used him at 13, or even 49ers, but they chose to go with Mikael Williams. So that's not a bad pick either. It's just really you had two of them, but I thought Jalen Walker was the better prospect.
I'd go into our X page right now because I want to pull up our mock and see that we actually labeled a couple of picks. We actually had a pretty decent mock draft, I must say. First and foremost, I think we so obviously the top 5 picks, we had 4 of the top 5 right. We went Carter, Hunter, Ward, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, instead of going with Ward, Hunter, Carter, Campbell, Graham. But we also had Will Campbell going 7th, right? So we were pretty spot on in that regard. Ted McMillan at 8 to the Panthers was nailed. We were off by 1 pick on Kelvin Banks, 3 picks or 4 picks on Armand Mabo. Luther Burden, we had going at 12, and he ended up falling to the Bears at 41, I think it was. Let me just double check that. No, the Bills had 41. He was at 39 to the Bears.
I thought it was 39.
But I was talking with someone about this in the know, and he was saying that a lot of draft grades going into this past weekend, roughly picks 15 through 50, those projected picks, anyone picked in there could have gone anywhere between 15 and 50. Like this is why a lot of people are referring to this as such a weak draft class. And I think in terms of star power, it was weak, right? I don't think this was the greatest draft class in the world in terms of true star power. But what I will vehemently disagree with is that this overall class was weak. This is a very good depth class. This is a very good offensive line class. And that's part why you see guys like Derek Harmon, who I don't think we even had him going in the first round. We didn't. He goes at 21 to the Steelers. We had Nick Emanwari going at 24 to the Vikings. He fell to the second round, right? I don't even think we thought of Quinshon Judkins. He went early in the second. We definitely didn't really think of Donovan Jackson. Donovan Jackson went in the first round as well. So this draft class was very, very deep in terms of just adding to the roster to add depth. So any of those guys that mid-first to through the end of the second round, there really were no shockers other than Shedeur Sanders falling. I'll stand by that too. I think this class was deep, and every one of these guys was on roughly the same playing field. So there really weren't many surprises, just a couple shakeups here and there.
I think the biggest shock for me was Shamar Stewart not ending up in Green Bay, because that just seemed like such a Packers pick. I was shocked that Cincinnati took him beforehand, and I wonder whether Goody was thinking about pulling the trigger on a guy like that. Very similar to Lucas Van Ness in the sense where he's really raw as a talent, didn't really accomplish too much in college, but had incredible physical attributes. One of the greatest prospects in that regard that we've seen in forever. And then Green Bay finally selecting a wide receiver. Mark Murphy was a great showman that night. He knew how to play that up. The entire experience was just Matthew Golden said, I think the day before that he wanted to come to Green Bay. Murphy comes out onto the stage with Goodell. It's his last year being in charge of the Packers. I want to say he retires on July 1st or somewhere around there. Plays up the crowd, gets everyone hyped, and then Golden comes out, does his incredible walkout. I thought that pick was pretty much nailed. I gave my thoughts on social media. The other one that I wanted to talk about was the Chicago Bears. Jalen, I know you'll want to get into this one as well. You had quite the reaction to that one. I thought that either Tyler Warren or just any offensive tackle probably would have worked best for them. I'm not saying I don't think Colston Loveland will be good in the future, because there's a chance that he could turn into something special. However, Tyler Warren was there for the taking. And I think they made a mistake not drafting him in that spot. Could Loveland be a great player? Sure. Could I be wrong? Probably. I don't know. I usually am. But that one just didn't make a ton of sense to me at all.
Yeah, I was irate when I had first saw when we was watching it live actually on the pod. I was irate with Nazir, and it almost comes as if you're a Bears fan, it almost comes as that's such a Bears pick. Like, you need an offensive tackle, you don't draft one, and then you go get a tight end, but you don't get the best one. So it's it's such a Bears pick, man. I mean, Colston Loveland, yeah, he's not a bad player. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be bad or anything, but the value at number 10 was not Colston Loveland. It was not. It was obviously Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren was literally played like a man amongst boys. When you watched him play at Penn State, he was just manhandling. He can block well. He was blocking well. He was more like Travis Kelce. Like, you get Travis Kelce 2.0, but you go get George Kittle. That's basically what are we doing? George Kittle's not bad, but he's not Travis Kelce. He's not rising and having those kind of games. I mean, yes, he's a great tight end. He catches well, and yes, he can get you in the end zone, but he's not of a caliber to where he's drawing double teams off the line of scrimmage as a tight end. I was like, what are we doing? But over time, I was able to just actually calm down and actually read into, why we picked them and things like that. But because I would say that Ben Johnson runs a lot of two tight end sets, and he did that a lot at Detroit. So, I'd like to see what happens. But I mean, at the moment, right now, I'm just not feeling that pick right now, even though it's still made already, and even though I've seen the strategies that he's used and the strategies that he's done in Detroit, I'm just not feeling the pick still. I do think the Packers did get a good one, though. The golden one.
Yeah. Matthew Golden's going to be a stud. I will stand by that. A lot of people were calling him the fastest receiver in the draft that struggled to get open. But he also has great hands. He also makes good cuts. I think that's the reason why he doesn't get open so much, is because Quinn Ewers had him running so many deep routes at Texas. That's just how it worked out. But he fights for every ball. He's a guy that you want as your number one receiver, right? And if going to his profile here, Matthew Golden, going to just take a look. Only 21 years old, 6 feet tall, but he is fast. Got great hands. He's a guy that I'd like to have on the outside if I'm Jordan Love. Now, going back to Barron Sorrell versus Shamar Stewart, to your point, Chris, Shamar Stewart, yes, good size, great size, and had a great combine too. Barron Sorrell had him in tackles, assisted tackles, combined tackles, tackles for loss, and sacks this year. He also has the exact same amount of forced fumbles in his college career as Shamar Stewart. And Barron Sorrell fell to the 4th round to us, and he's going to be a lot cheaper to keep for over 4 or 5 years than Shamar Stewart would be. So, I mean, that's Brian Gutekunst. I talked with another person who has some relations to Brian Gutekunst, right? And I was told if there's one thing that Brian Gutekunst knows, it is football and it is late round picks. He knows a little too much. It's almost unhealthy how much he knows about what draft strategies other teams are going to employ, right? So holding off on a defensive end or an edge rusher like that till the 4th round, getting Baron Sorrell, who is arguably in this year's class, especially a first-round talent, huge steal. That is a huge steal, and I'm glad we didn't jump on trying to get Shamar Stewart and maybe throw off the rest of our draft.
What's crazy, and then yeah, go ahead.
I think if there's anything that this draft told me, it's that Jair Alexander might be sticking around Green Bay for this season. He was not traded, and the Packers didn't address secondary either early in the first round. They didn't go get a Will Johnson. I was saying potentially that they should trade up for someone of that caliber early in the second, even because he fell to the second round. He ended up going, I believe, at 37 to Arizona. I know he went to Arizona. I don't remember the pick exactly, but that's what this draft really taught me was just I think there's a greater than 0 chance that Jair Alexander is a Green Bay Packer come week 1 this season. And I don't know if it's because they can't find a trade partner, or whether he still wants to be part of the plans, or whether they don't see a reason that they truly have to move on from him, because I don't think a starting 3 at corner of Nate Hobbs, Carrington Valentine, and or Keyshawn Nixon and Jair, now knock on wood, of course, if they stay healthy, is bad at all. And then you got Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney back there at safety, and then Javon Bullard can plug and play as well. I don't see an issue with that at all. I think that's a really good secondary, and it's going to limit other teams' passing offenses for the season.
Can we just talk about how the Jacksonville Jaguars just decided to go all in on bringing in Travis Hunter? That was on Thursday. I was so upset with our situation, not being able to get in, that I didn't even give myself time to get excited about Travis Hunter going to my Jags. But look, say what you want about how much they had to give up to get the guy, right? Say what you want about they might be throwing away a little bit too much draft capital at a guy who he's a special talent in college, but that might never translate to the NFL, right? It's definitely going to translate to the NFL. Travis Hunter is going to be a superstar. And imagine if you're in Travis Hunter's shoes, how excited are you that at the 2nd overall pick, you thought you were going to be stuck playing in miserable, snowy, cold, wet Cleveland for 4+ years, and you just got blessed with going to Florida for the first 4 years of your career. You just got blessed. It just got handed to you on a silver platter. You have to be so excited. If I'm Travis Hunter, I'm ready to give my life for the organization. They just did that. Home. They saved my life. Yes, going back home, right? So, and you got to think about it too this way. Jacksonville has 11 picks next year, none of them in the first round. They have like 2 or 3 in the second and third each, right? They have like 4 to 6 picks in the first 3 rounds. They can most easily trade back in to the first round next year in a class that is expected to be outstanding, right? There's been a lot of talks about the 2026 draft class being one of the better draft classes in this millennia. So the Jags having all that pick capital now with Travis Hunter, and I mean, the roster on paper still isn't half bad. On paper, the Jags should be competing for the AFC South because that division is weak, right? So I think the Jaguars are in a terrific place right now after adding Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is going to be, in my mind, I think he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, especially considering that they're going to play him only at receiver to start the season and slowly work him into playing both sides of the ball so he can at least get up to speed, right? They want him to make sure that he can get up to speed with the NFL before trying to play him at 2 positions right away, because that would mess his career length. That would mess up his development. But playing him at strictly receiver, Trevor Lawrence just got the best receiver in this draft. I hope we know that. He just got the best receiver in this draft.
It's going to say a lot as well, because I ultimately thought the best move I thought that could have happened in the draft was the Jaguars trading Trevor Lawrence to go up and pick first in the second round to go get Shedeur Sanders. Pair them two back up in the NFL and You got Brian
Absolutely
Thomas
not.
Jr. and things
No.
like that. But
I know
if this doesn't work out, they're gonna have to go look for a quarterback, in which they could have had a rookie for a rookie deal as well. And then what I will
for the
say,
cameras on Wednesday, but Travis did say in the short press conference that we were able to get with him on the field during media availability that he'd love to play with Shador again. Now, obviously, I don't think Jacksonville thought that way,
no,
especially after they just inked Trevor Lawrence to the huge deal that they did a year ago. I don't know. Jacksonville, if nothing else, he'd be the number two there. And as Dion kind of showed through the whole draft process, he doesn't want Shador to be a number two. He wants him to be a starter somewhere, and he wants it to be under his terms. And I think a lot of teams may have been scared to pick him for that reason because he bombed the draft interview process with a few teams kind of on purpose. His mentality quite isn't there. He was out partying on Saturday night after he got drafted. Some other guys, went down. The next day, Travis Hunter was in Jacksonville already. Meanwhile, Shador is out partying in Dallas when he gets selected by Cleveland. It's just, I have a lot of questions about his mentality going forward this season, especially.
I have no questions about it because I can't really knock a man on how he celebrates. I can't really knock a man on he was taken so far low to so much far lower than his value. Now you have a chip on your shoulder. So I can't really say that, but the reason I say about the Jacksonville pick is because you have a new regimen, you got a new GM, you got a new coach, and if Trevor Lawrence doesn't pan out, they're going to say we didn't draft him, and they will have to draft another quarterback. And then I'm not saying that it would be set back, but you could all like that. That's what the Bears did. The Bears did the same thing, even though Justin Fields wasn't the greatest or the best quarterback, but he was a volume quarterback to have over Caleb Williams to come back into this draft. Because you never know, the Bears could have had Travis Hunter this year. You never know. But the crazy thing is, what I'm trying to say is that yes, the past regime did pay him $200 million guaranteed already, which is why I was like, okay, if you have a new system, a new coach, a new regimen, a new offense of everything, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't fit well in that new offense, you're gonna have to go start over, in which you could have started over already. Now I'm not saying that even this was obviously before Shador Sanders dropped, but that's what I thought. I thought that, and some people was actually telling me that was actually a pretty good move. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was could have been a great move to do as well. So
I disagree with that. And first and foremost, the reason why the Browns were never going to make that trade, especially at 33, is simply because they still owe Deshaun Watson all that guaranteed money,
mhm.
right? They can't move that contract. It's an albatross of a contract. No one wants it. Not even Jackson will be trying because it's a little cheaper than what Trevor Lawrence is making, right? Deshaun Watson's contract is a little more affordable than what Trevor Lawrence's contract looks like. At the same time, in no way is James Gladstone going to take back Deshaun Watson in that move. Absolutely not. And the Browns can't just cut him. They would have so much dead cap if they just cut Deshaun Watson. Like I think it would be pushing 100 million this season alone in dead cap space. They half their draft picks they wouldn't be able to sign, including Shador Sanders. So making that move would have been horrible for both franchises. And I think I see where you're coming from, where maybe, it's a brand new system and Trevor Lawrence was signed by Trent Baalke and not James Gladstone. I don't think Gladstone cares. I think Gladstone's happy just to have a guy who was drafted first overall at one point on his team, right? Especially at the quarterback position. Like Trevor Lawrence, he was considered the chosen one for a long time, right? There was a fight to get that number one pick to see who could suck the most back in 2021 to be able to land Trevor Lawrence versus Zach Wilson. And we all saw how Zach Wilson turned out, right? So I think the Jaguars are playing it safe by not jumping ship on Trevor Lawrence. They shouldn't, A, and B, it's a good thing they aren't because it's continuity, right? It's continuity. You're bringing in a lot of new faces, right? You need something that is stable. Even
Which is all the
Gladstone
reason you
knows
start
that.
over.
Well, sure, but then you're setting the franchise back years, right?
Are you
You
though?
you pose
Because
you pose you
Shador
pose a
Sanders. I mean, go
greater
ahead.
you pose a greater risk of setting the franchise back for years by just doing a blanket start over than you do if you try and create some continuity, right? Now, you're setting yourselves up for more mediocrity in terms of performance and playoff appearances and division titles and things like that. But by completely starting over, at least in year 1, year 2, you're setting yourself up to be terrible for years 1 and 2. Now, we're going to talk about the Bucks later, and I have my takes on the Bucks, right? And how they should approach this offseason with possibly a rebuild, right? Possibly blowing it up and completely starting it over. So I'm not opposed to teams starting over, but in the Jaguar situation, when you have that weak of a division and you don't want to let other teams get better in your division, Trevor Lawrence is still a good quarterback. I'll stand on that. You still have some continuity with Trevor Lawrence, with guys in the offensive line, with the running backs, with some of the guys on the defense. Starting over some new coaching, right? I don't think the Jaguars are in a bad position by keeping Trevor Lawrence by any means right now. Could they have drafted Shedeur? Sure. But I don't think they're in a bad position right now. I think they're in a much better position right now than they were last week.
Well, yeah, you could say, yes. I mean, he's not a bad quarterback. What is he, 27, 28?
I think younger than that, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe 25, 26.
He's 20. He will be 26 this year, week 5. So he's
Sure,
25
Sanders
years
is
old
what,
right now.
22 years old?
Yeah, he's still got time. He's still got plenty of time.
He hasn't even eclipsed his prime yet.
How old is Brian Thomas Jr.?
Second year player by now.
He's 22 going on 23.
So you have a really young team.
Plenty of time. It basically is a rebuild they're still in with how young half these guys are. And now you adding guys like Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech, 52 touchdowns in his career, insane stuff. Would I have much rather had Cam Scadaboo? Yes, because of name value. But Bashal Tutin is not a bad running back. They got Jack Kaiser to bolster the linebackers. That's Jack Kaiser, another guy who was first-round talent for this year's class, falling to the 4th round. They're in a much better position right in this very moment than they were this moment last week. They're in a much better spot.
Jacksonville had the best opportunity in any draft in a quarterback situation regardless. You can keep Trevor Lawrence. You got experience there as well, yes. But if you got to ask yourself, is he going to be the quarterback of the future if he doesn't pan out the next 2 years? And then you're almost kind of like in one of the weakest divisions, and when they haven't won it yet in about 2 years?
Yeah, since that playoff run, they went 9-8.
Right. So
but they also went.
Did they win the division that year?
Yeah, they did. They were the 4th seed.
Yeah.
Because they had sudden death ball against the Titans in week 18 that year. But the year after that, you were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Just 18 football games, or not 18. You're 27 football games ago. You were the number 1 seed in the AFC. And then Jalen, you and I watched that Monday Night Football game together against the Bengals over in the Williams Center here at Whitewater. We watched that game, and we watched Walker Little step and roll on Trevor Lawrence's foot and mess up his ankle. They should have won that game. Soft holding call on Anton Harrison there on that bomb from C.J. Beathard to Calvin Ridley. That would have set them up to win the game. They'd have been 9-1, 9-2 in that moment. Instead, they finished the year 9-8 again, but barely missed the playoffs. So they almost went back-to-back playoff appearances. That had been the first time they'd done that since like the late 90s when they were in like 3 straight AFC championships. Then last year happened. And last year, Dougie P lost the locker room. Guys were just underperforming all around. It was really just the Trevor Lawrence and BTJ show. And Trevor Lawrence still playing through some injury stuff too. Doug Peterson was trying to push that guy through hell for a little bit just to try and keep the team competitive. That's how much faith they still have in Trevor Lawrence, right? And I don't see a world in which Liam Cohen, who just had one of the best passing offense seasons for his Tampa Bay Buccaneers in franchise history, coming into Jacksonville with another great arm talent in Trevor Lawrence. I don't see a world in which Trevor Lawrence doesn't succeed in Jacksonville, especially now. I don't see a world where he doesn't succeed.
I mean, I don't see there. I mean, I can't really say that either because you're starting to get on what is this year 5, year 6, I think, something like that. So I think that he's on a short leash, in my opinion. That's a performance into actually getting deep into a playoff run because we hold Dak Prescott to the same kind of same standard. He got a big contract, they ain't winning. So
Yeah, but
uh,
is it Dak's fault though? Too? That's another question that for another time. Like, is it really Dak's fault?
yeah,
I don't know. Dak Prescott, if he puts up numbers similar to Patrick Mahomes over the last 3 seasons, one of them wins Super Bowls because he's got a great team around him. The other gets knocked in the first round because Mike McCarthy's his head coach and his best players get hurt all the time. Like CeeDee Lamb was a shell of himself down the stretch last season,
He
right?
wasn't
And
even
then,
healthy.
granted, the Cowboys weren't in the playoff picture, but at the same time, they were in the playoff picture like 4 weeks before that. Is it really Dak Prescott's fault? No, I don't think it is, but that's a question for another time.
When
We
they
should keep
failed
going
to
on
address the
here.
running back room, but like you said, different topic, different time.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll probably leave that there. We'll obviously have a lot of time to talk about um, the draft and what teams should have done and teams or what you think teams should have done or did do